And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. He am your griot here to tell you a story. And what is it good for? Time, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, as Hamlet would say. What is it good for? Depression? I watch the world around me continually do the same thing it has been doing since I was born in the early 50s. And nothing has changed. Wars, rumors of war, disease, famine, economic collapse. Just keep happening over and over. It's actually the same famine, same economic collapse, same war, right? And what is that war? It's a war between unconditional love and conditional love, right? That famine is that lack, that hole in us where we had to fill it with something, so we continually buy crap, right? We go on and on and on, self medicating with food and booze and drugs and sex, none of it ever giving any kind of realization or connectivity to love's co creation. The only thing that can do that is when you, the artist in the first person, right, basically offers yourself to love's co-creation, to be that character, that artist in the first person, to co-create, right? And what is the mechanism that is used um, to be the frame to build upon, right? So
of 1946, he was awarded an early release. The entire Soviet scientific community celebrated Nikolai Kozyrov's return. After more than 10 years, their beacon of hope was back to catapult Mother Russia to new heights of achievement. What they didn't expect, though, was that the scientist who entered the Gulag was not the same who came out. He'd long disconnected from mainstream science. Kozyrov was completely unaware of the discovery of nuclear energy, for example. And the controversy surrounding him skyrocketed after Kozyrov published a paper on his theory of time. Developed entirely in a solitary cell, the theory was based on Kozyrov's photographic memory of the works of Albert Einstein and Gary, who argued that gravity is not a force, but rather a distortion of the four-dimensional space-time continuum. Depending on what the matter is made of and how it's shaped, it will distort and warp space-time in different ways. And based on these ideas, Nikolai Kozyrov proposed that something could be created to intentionally affect time. In a single statement, Kozyrov shocked the entire Soviet Union. Quote, a mirror can be made that can bend absolutely anything, including time. Time travel is possible through a mirror. End quote. He wasn't being metaphorical. Nikolai Kozyrov really was serious about using a mirror. And stick with me here as I try my best to explain. To begin, the astrophysicists proposed that light and time aren't so different from one another. Just as light is a type of energy, Kozyrov came to the conclusion that time is a type of energy too. And similarly, with light, we can only perceive a fraction of a much larger spectrum. For example, infrared and ultraviolet light are invisible to the naked human eye. And according to Kozyrov, time energy works similarly. The full spectrum of time, the past, present, and future, all exist simultaneously. However, under normal conditions, we can only perceive the present time. And back to the mirrors, a mirror doesn't technically reflect light. It actually bends light and changes its direction due to the material the mirror is made out of and its design. So, accordingly, with the right setup, it may be possible to bend and direct time, too. Kozyrov's wild theory led him to be disgraced by some of the Soviet Union's leading physicists and sparked a decades long debate over whether his theory should even be tested. Without any funding, Kozyrev used the little savings he had to continue developing his theory and experimenting with different metals. Finally, he settled on a mixture of several special grades of aluminum, melting them into a thin sheet. He proposed that the key would be to forge the sheet into a concave mirror. Today, concave mirrors are used in modern technology, such as astronomical telescopes, electron microscopes, and solar powered heaters, to gather in and focus a significant concentration of light. And this property of concave mirrors has been known since ancient times, such as in 212 BC, when the mathematician Archimedes designed a mirror to concentrate the sun's rays and incinerate entire wooden Roman ships. And this was exactly what Nikolai Kozyrev had in mind. Even more jarring than the concept of time bending, Kozyrev wanted to build a time concentrator. In the last years of his life, he proposed a simple but deliberate device to take full advantage of the properties of concave mirrors. A long sheet of his aluminum concave mirror could be rolled into a perfect cylindrical spiral, then placed upright, leaving room inside for a person to sit. Finally, the device would be rotated 1.5 turns clockwise. Time energy would be captured by the opening and become more and more concentrated the further it flows into the spiral. So, theoretically, the person sitting in the pool of concentrated time energy would suddenly exist in multiple points in the space time continuum. Simply put, they'd gain access to the past and the future at the exact same time. Unfortunately, Nikolai Kozyrev was never able to build his time concentrator, nor further his research. In 1983, his health abruptly declined in a matter of weeks, and on the 27th of February, he died, the cause unknown. After Kozyrev's death, his theories on time bending and concentration were brought back into the public spotlight. They were still highly controversial, but now with a greater air of intrigue. By almost all measures, Kozyrev was a scientific genius. So, what if he was on to something? Just a handful of years after Kozyrev died, the Soviet Union began to collapse, and a deep societal change was on the horizon. President Mikhail Gorbachev did several major policies of openness, which allowed for freedom of speech and democracy. As a side effect, this also opened up the possibility for serious scientists to test the strange experiment proposed by Nikolai Kozyrev. In fact, the government operated Russian Academy of Sciences was ready to fund it. And this brings us back to the scientists who received that funding and built the world's first Kozyrev mirror, Dr. Vlail Kuznachev and Dr. Alexander Trofimov. And based on their results, the mirror actually worked. But what they saw in the mirror wasn't pretty.
Have you heard of the powerful method to achieve almost 20/20 vision without surgery? The best part is that it is so easy to do.
And based on their results, the mirror actually worked. But what they saw in the mirror wasn't pretty. In December of 1990, Kuznachev and Trofimov transported their Kozyrev mirror to a small remote village known as Deekson, one of the closest permanent settlements to the North Pole. This location was chosen intentionally, as Trofimov explained, quote, "The permafrost zone surrounding Deekson stores information for many tens and hundreds of thousands of years." According to Nikolai Kozyrev, any process, for example, the transformation of water into ice, is accompanied by the absorption of time energy, and the ice stores this energy of time. When the ice begins to melt, the reverse process of energy release of time begins. End quote. In other words, because Dixon's permafrost was slowly melting, they believed that it was literally emitting ancient information in the form of time captured there hundreds, thousands, and even millions of years ago. And this was important as the Kozyrev mirror needed to collect and concentrate as much time energy as possible. The experiment at Deekson was the first of its kind. No one knew what to expect, but they certainly didn't foresee the madness heading their way. These experiments became so infamous that multiple Russian films have been made about them, including a feature length documentary titled Mirrors Breaking the Future, produced by the official Russian state TV channel Russia 1. But for accuracy's sake, I'll be cross referencing with Kuznetsov's and Trofimov's 1992 book titled Cosmic Consciousness of Humanity, which contains the original laboratory records, experiment journals, and witness audio tapes transcribed in English. So, the story I'm about to tell you, even if it sounds quite alien and disturbing, are documented events. And we'll begin with the fear. For the entire first day of the experiments, not a single person was willing to enter the Kozarev mirror. That day, an otherworldly sense of dread and terror was felt not only by the research participants, but also Kuznetsov and Trofimov, who described the sensation as very primal and animalistic. But unlike any natural emotional feeling, it seemed to have very physical effects. In the audio tapes, various volunteers described their experience with the fear. Quote, December 24th, 1990, tape 1. Three of us came to the psychological distress room to work there. Having entered the room, we felt a kind of emotional pressure. We found a picture of three dots inside a circle. Somebody offered to put it into the Kozarev mirrors. Having done it, we felt a kind of emotional shock. We just couldn't keep standing around the mirrors. The fear was so strong, it seemed like a real thing you could touch. None of us have ever had such a feeling before. Tape 4. I was afraid to come up to the mirrors. My colleague decided to put a reproduction of the Banner of Peace by Nicholas Rourke into the mirrors. Once he stretched out his hand, he had fear. I felt my chest trembling. It was like coming into cold water. The fear grew so strong that I was close to running away. Next time we came to the room, I suddenly felt a strong blow to my head. Tape 5. We thought the source of the pressure was Kozarev's mirrors because as we got closer to them, the thrill grew. I felt cold and dizzy, like there was too much oxygen. My hands were trembling and my head grew heavy. While coming away from the mirror, the feelings went down. Once we were back, we felt the fear grow up again. At 11 p.m., the fear area reached outside of Kozarev's space. Even the air of the room seemed different. It was like after a thunderstorm. At 11:50 p.m., we decided to put a test paper into the mirrors. The test paper was of a round form with three circles and the Banner of Peace by Nicholas Rourke inside. I put it in between the mirrors. My hands trembled. I saw a black cloud in the center of Kozarev's space. It filled up the whole space of the mirrors. About 1 a.m., we felt the presence of some substance in the room. It felt like the substance came from Kozarev's space and filled up the whole room. The fear was so strong. We put a cross on the outside of the mirrors and it calmed us down a bit. But about 2 a.m., the fear reached its extreme. We went out of the room, but my colleague decided to go back for the cigarettes. As we passed the hole in the mirrors, we saw a violet flash shaped like a tree with branches and roots. At that very moment, my colleague got scared. We ran away from the room. I felt like something had struck my back. It was like a black cloud generating fear. Getting away from the room, I felt like there was a black cloud dragging behind me from the mirrors. In the morning, I had a headache. End quote. According to the records of doctors Kuznetsov and Trofimov, the two researchers witnessed the violet flash that occurred at 2 a.m. when the volunteer went back for his cigarettes, and noted that it was accompanied by the smell of ozone. Even more disturbing, though, was that the guards outside reported a hovering, glowing disk manifesting above the research facility itself at the very same time. Dr. Trofimov gave this statement, quote, the tester brought the symbol of Nicholas Rourke's Banner of Peace into the mirrors, and the tester was thrown back by a certain force field. Suddenly, inside the installation, there was a flash of a plasmoid. It was scary. We were not ready for this. We did not even have instruments to measure everything. According to the security officers outside, minute by minute, a luminous in the form of a disk began to appear above our building. This happened around 7 times. End quote. During the first 2 months of the experiments, there were exactly 7 UFO incidents, and we'll return back to the UFO mystery very soon. But after these two simultaneous events at 2 a.m. on Christmas Day, strangely enough, Cousin Chief and Trofimov said that the bizarre sense of dread completely cleared from the testing area. So, on December 5th, they finally began the Kozarov Mir experiment.
Neurologists are shocked. They have found that tonight wipes your memory in less than 3 years. The ear buzzing is literally wiping your memory by
5th, they finally began the Kozarov Mir experiments. Sitting inside the aluminum spiral chamber, the participant would focus their mind as the researchers spun the device 1.5 turns clockwise, and then the magic would begin. Within the Kozarov Mir, an intense spectacle was witnessed by almost every single participant. As Dr. Trofimov described, quote, everyone who entered the mirrors of Kozarev saw a huge stream of symbols, signs glowing like neon signs. All of us saw it, admired them. These were real visible signs, end quote. In their published findings, Dr. Kuznichev and Dr. Trofimov provided sketches of these symbols, which the research participants drew while inside the Kozarev mirror. The experiments in Deakin went on for 6 months, and these drawings here are from May 1991. Every row is from a different volunteer at a different testing time, all isolated from communicating with one another. Yet, people were seeing these same things. Cool. This is not a subjective feeling of the people seeing these characters. One by one, research participants who had not talked amongst themselves entered the mirrors. Each of them drew the symbols, the same symbols. End quote. I'd like to give context to two of these symbols. The first here appears to be the Eye of Providence, or the all-seeing Eye of God, which is a very ancient symbol. It's mostly known for having been used by the early Christians who likely took it from the ancient Egyptians. And later, the Eye of Providence became closely associated with the secret fraternal organization known as the Freemasons. The second one I wanted to mention is the circle with the 3 dots. This one is particularly interesting, as it's the symbol that the scholar and mystic Nicholas Rourke chose to use for his Banner of Peace. As we know, on the first day, a participant placed a copy of the Banner of Peace inside the Kozarev mirror in hopes of stopping the sensation of dread. However, the banner seemed to make things worse. According to the participant, it caused some black cloud to form inside the mirror and spread out into the room almost like a physical substance. Just like the Eye of Providence, the symbol of history. Nicholas Rourke explained that he chose it because it was used to symbolize the Trinity in early Orthodox Christianity. However, when Rourke later explored remote parts of Asia, he saw the symbol also being used there. Thus, the symbol must be far more ancient than Christianity. It's best to get to the bottom of this now before we get on to the much crazier stuff to come. So let's temporarily time warp forward to 1997, a little less than 7 years after the events at Deakin. By 1997, Kuznichev and Trofimov had achieved such interesting results that they captured the attention of the international academic community. And that year, they organized a joint experiment with British scientists, setting up a Kozarev mirror and a monitoring station at Britain's famous prehistoric megalithic site, Stonehenge, located in Wiltshire, England. For whatever reason, working with the British must have flipped a switch in their brains, because it was at that point that Kuznichev and Trofimov decided that the mystery of the symbols had gone on long enough, and experts needed to be brought in. In the years stretching between 1990 and 1997, they documented approximately 1,200 unique symbols, with a striking number of them reoccurring between different participants across different times and locations. The two researchers met with a team of linguists from the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Sciences and gave them their collection of sketches for analysis. Incredibly, the linguists were able to identify approximately 80% of the symbols, all extremely archaic, and many of which could be traced back to megalithic sites and rock art of various ancient civilizations. However, one culture in particular dominated the group. As Dr. Trofimov explained, quote, at first, we thought the symbols were some kind of message to us. there are always many temptations and interpretations.
Hey, buddy,
Then we realized that most of the symbols
you
we
doing?
saw correlated with the Sumerian culture.
What's shaking?
Hi.
Hey. So you enjoying this beautiful day?
I went to my mom's house and dad's house.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to stay at the art school?
No, not at the moment. No, I'm enjoying the spring and out here to Deep Green. I'm gonna enjoy every minute that I can in the most positive of sense. Praise Jesus, praise God, and I've been reading the Bible a lot. And friends are gonna come and visit, so I'm not going anywhere. I don't have that much money to come to Virginia just to get there. It'd be like $100, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm basically I watch all these people go on and on about how am I going to pay my bills, or and I just don't spend money on things I don't have money to spend on. So that's basically it. So I may later, in the summer, I'd love to come and visit and hang with you. How you doing with?
Well, it's like you don't have a problem with the bills, and
Well, I don't have any money, so I don't spend it. So I don't have to. If I don't buy anything, I have $400. That's enough to pay, my all the insurance, my bills, my this, my that, my whatever little needs I have. $400 a month does it pretty good. So that's about it.
I thought you have 800 a month.
Well, I mean, that's, I had to pay some obligatory payments, medical and insurance and electric bill and that kind of stuff. So the first 400 takes care of those things, and the other 400 is food, gas, and medicines I need now and then. So that's about it. So, like I said, I don't really um, buy anything. You know, I don't spend money I don't have. I don't have a credit card, so I don't worry about it. Right. So I'm more involved with deeper things like the meaning to life. What is So I've been reading the Bible a great deal, and Old and New Testament, and the Old Testament is the New Testament because it constantly talks about the Messiah and what the Messiah is and what the Messiah is doing, and the Messiah is there right now. And that's the same right now. God and Jesus are with us at all times. And when you put yourself, above, Jesus and God, things don't work out too well. When you are in service to that love's co-creation, that's when things work out. So I'm here. What's ever left in my time is to understand that and to speak to that and to share that with everybody around me. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And when I come and visit you, John, um, we don't seem to be able to go into that mode. It's always a mode of um, representing, how you're feeling about this, that, or the other thing. How the world is attacking you, or why this doesn't work out or that doesn't work out, but never about how to move forward. With God's unconditional love, with Jesus's forgiveness. And that's how we can motivate ourselves to, in every day and every way, take the peace of the earth and make it stronger by being our best, not our worst, not our most horrible, but our best. So that's what I'm doing at the present time. And I live moment by moment. I don't really think about the future or the past. They are obviously part of what the moment is by a motivation of memory and the motivation of expectation but to live in the moment of God's love. So that's what I'm working on. And I'm a human being, so I have my weaknesses and foibles, and the conflict of just the world around me as I observe it. It's a motivating force to do better, not to do worse, not to be compromised by fear. So that's kind of what I'm working on. And when I don't have to really worry about anything, because what's there to worry about? I'm going to die soon. So, and I've died already a number of times, so it's not a big deal. My present focus is to serve
Oh
God.
no! Oh no! I'm a woman.
Well, maybe you are. You know,
I'm a
gender
woman.
is something that is almost irrelevant.
I'm getting out of here. I'm getting on a plane. I'm getting out of here.
Where are you going to go?
I'm getting on a plane. I
Wherever
don't want
you
to be a
go, there
fat
you
guy.
are, John. And no matter where
I
you
don't
go,
want to
there
be
you
a fat
are.
guy.
We can't escape. All we can do is
I
live.
can't. No, I wasn't a fat guy. That's not been a worry. I just want to leave.
Where are you going to go?
I don't know.
I mean, you're in one of the more beautiful places in the state of Virginia. You're in one of the most loving spaces, the hill, the school. There are so many spiritual presence and energies there that if you were to, go,
You see,
that path that I showed you that you used to jog up with your
yes,
barbells,
it's-
there are so many beautiful places up there that if you just went up there and prayed to God and Jesus to serve them, you would find a path to go. But it's right there. You don't have to travel miles or
I don't.
other parts of the world. It's right there. That beautiful space is right there.
I don't think don't. Don't. You don't need to do that because don't 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 no don't do shit. One word, shit in your mouth.
That's 2 words. That's 2 words.
One word more. Now you get to laugh like you're in heaven, man, because you were good and nice.
You are good, John, and you are in heaven. Just experience the moment of God and Jesus in the moment, and you're in heaven.
Yeah.
You don't have to be scared. You don't have to be fearful.
It's been so bad feeling for 2 years. It's okay. I
So,
just
John,
don't want to run if it
remember
hurts.
when you first moved there, and I went away for a while, and
I've hurt my leg a few different times.
what did?
There's a time when my leg hurt for a year.
Well, my legs hurt all the time.
It had gotten better than it was before I was at this house because it felt so good here. And then I think I mentioned it, and then it got worse than it ever was. And one time I heard it for an entire year. and I wasn't really able to run and stuff. But maybe now I could run again, but I don't know how
All
right
you have
now
to do
because
is walk, John. You don't have to run. You don't have to run. Just walk up that hill.
okay,
Go. There's that path that goes up behind the A-frame and then goes around, and there are many beautiful spots that you can just sit.
but Doc sent me down the road, having to back all the way down the road without being able to turn around up at his house
Why did you go
on
up that way?
his dangerous road in a 2-wheel drive.
Why did you go up that way?
And I don't know how I didn't wreck the car
Why did you go up there in the first place?
because somebody was looking at the house, and I just drove up there a little bit and parked on the road.
Yeah.
And he got angry.
Why did you get angry?
I don't know. He had never been angry before. He's nice, and he's a kind, good person. But now I don't even want to go up that road. And if you start to go up it, it says private property. It says praise God, praise Jesus. It says private property. It says no turnaround. Do not drive up road.
Right.
But my house goes up there. My house goes
Up along the road there. Yep.
Have you ever tried to drive up there? Would you drive up his road?
Oh, I have many, many times. And there are a couple of places where, if you're careful, you can turn around. Like when you just go up that first
Why-
length and then it turns, you can turn around at just up there. And then it goes
Why did you do that?
another all along the property. And then there's a gate. And at the gate, you can turn around too.
What if you can't turn around at the gate?
Well, I mean, I was able
If
to.
he closes it, it's hard to drive down the mountain. Sometimes I don't know how you turn around if he locked the gate.
Well, I mean, he would keep that locked all the time. Because Steve used to go up there and fool around all the time, and that's why Doc got a little. He used to not care. I used to go up there all the time, but Steve went up there and fooled around, and he didn't like that. So he became.
What did he do?
I have no idea. But
It's private. There are no people there.
yeah, I know. I have no idea. But
Billy Dyerly walks up there.
yeah. I used to walk up there all the time. And that road keeps going and going and going and going. That used to be the main road to Charlotte.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like way, like back in the 1500s.
Why would he close it so people can't go? But he usually leaves it open. But I don't know. He closes it sometimes.
Yeah. When he doesn't.
Why does he care if anyone drives past his house?
He used to not, but I have no, I really haven't seen Doc in a number of years, so I don't know what his.
Do you think he's angry because I thought something like I wasn't as into the military or something, and he got angry?
John, no one. There is no such thing as that kind of persuasion or communications, right? No one's getting affected by what you're thinking, unless you speak it and manifest it in a physical form. But your
I
thoughts.
haven't done that at all. I don't do that.
Your thoughts don't really. I mean,
I don't do
our
any of that.
thoughts do manifest certain things, but mostly within ourselves.
Now, this neighborhood, people could drive past my driveway,
Yeah.
or they could turn around in my driveway
Right.
here and there, and it's okay.
Right.
It didn't matter if somebody walks on your around, like near your house, if you have many acres. It didn't bother me if some people here and there were on my lawn walking through
And
it.
most people wouldn't drive up your road because your road is a little tough to drive up. So most people would stop at Inga's, at Tim's.
I mean, the people who live in the neighborhood, when Alex was there, he let my kids just be at his house and play with the chickens and stuff, and throw the chickens bread or throw the ducks bread, and everything was okay. And he didn't care if we went to his house, and he was from the South, and he wasn't one of those people who said no trespassing or something
right.
like that.
Exactly.
I don't understand why Doc was that way when he was always really nice, and he's still kind and good, but he just I don't understand why he didn't let me. I don't understand why he didn't let me just drive up there for privacy to get away from my home when somebody was showing the home. You know, he told me to turn around. He wouldn't let me go up and turn around at his house. He made me back down the road, and I almost wrecked the car 2 or 3 different times. I don't know how I made it down, and I got the feeling he was afraid that at how I was able to back down the mountain. He thought that I wouldn't be able to or something and have to talk to him or something.
Well, I don't know, John, but I just wanted to. I'm glad you called, and I'm glad you're well. And later in the summer, I may come to visit, but we'll talk about that then. So you stay well, my friend. I am going to go back to what I was doing, and I care about you, and you're always in my prayers, John. We were listening to a dissertation on time. We'll go back to that, and it's a simple experiment.
Culture, symbols that have come down to us on clay tablets in cuneiform writing. It's a moment of history that broke into our zone. That is somehow that horizon of the information storage on that shelf which refers to the Sumerian stage in the development of our civilization. End quote. Many of you might know that the Sumerian language is the oldest written language that we know of, dating back to as early as 3100 BC. But don't get the idea that the Sumerians are involved here, though, because a better question to ask is who the ancient Sumerians might have been in contact with.
A group of people were asked to project onto a flask of water love, tenderness, and concern. This is water exposed to compassion. The tap water was transformed by the gratitude sent by the group. The imprint.
Who the ancient Sumerians might have been in contact with. Back in Dixon Village, 1991. The glowing symbols weren't the only reoccurring phenomenon experienced by those who entered the Kozyrev mirrors. In the first week, almost every test was interrupted at some point by subjects reporting serious dizziness, nausea, migraines, paranoia, or dread. Over the following days, a handful of volunteers grew a tolerance to these symptoms and endured the discomfort, staying in the mirror for longer periods of time. The reports from various participants read as follows. Quote, January 19th, 1991. Being inside Kozyrev's space, at first I felt nothing at all. In a few minutes, I saw a human shape. It was white all over. In 30 seconds, it was gone. January 19th. Being inside Kozyrev's space, I felt lifeless and laid down. As soon as I closed my eyes, I saw an object flying above. Then came the darkness, and then the light again. I was in a room I hadn't seen before. A man was standing in the center of the room. His face wasn't seen. He began to speak slowly. Your planet is in danger. It is suffering. I couldn't say a word while he was speaking. He said, there may be a disaster. I asked him, when? No answer came. January 21st. Inside Kozyrev's space for 5 minutes, I saw myself at age 5 or something like that. His clothes were unusual, except the shoes, which I still remember since I was a kid. Just before that, I was shivering with cold. January 21st. At first, in Kozyrev's space, it was like waves coming on my head, and my ears were tight. In some time, I could not feel my feet. After that, a tall man in a white suit turned slowly to me. Then I saw a series of images. There was a moment when I heard breathing down on the floor. My body trembled a bit, but realizing that I was alone in the room, I relaxed. January 23rd. I saw a flying saucer inside Kozyrev's space. It was going down slowly. It was black with white windows. Then it suddenly went up and went away. January 23rd. Being in Kozarov's space, at first I was scared by something huge coming at me from both sides. Then I saw that there were two armies approaching each other. Then it went away and I saw an erupting volcano. I saw streams of lava coming down and a huge cloud of sulfur over it. The whole time I kept my eyes open. As I closed my eyes, I wanted to sleep, but all of a sudden I felt somebody's hand. My body shivered with fear. January 23rd. Being in Kozaro's space, at first I felt a kind of discomfort, which then turned into fear. I felt I had something cold right on my neck. I had a feeling of somebody watching me, so I was afraid to open my eyes. Then I felt my left hand fingers get pleasantly warm. It was like a dog licking them. End quote.
So this is a YouTube about the Kosovo mirror. He was a astrophysicist of the 1930s. He died, I think, around 87. And he, during the Stalin times, he was one of the greatest minds of his time. And Stalin didn't kill him, just put him in jail for 10 years. And he was in, all by himself, didn't hear from anybody. So he came up with these images of time and space and what it is. And it is very close. Everyone, take a big breath in through the nose and breathe out. And close your eyes and focus your conscious mind. That's your little monkey mind that is always distracted. How am I going to pay the bills? What am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about that? Oh, this person, that person. No. Take that conscious mind and quiet it down by focusing on your breath. And you're breathing in the prana, and that's that light that the Kosovo mirror, because what it was a thin piece of aluminum, especially alloyed aluminum, very reflective. And it's just like when you go to sleep and you have dreams, you have the imaginary mirror right across your eyes. And that's where when you're having rapid eye movement dreams, REM dreams, that's what it is. That is a Kosovo mirror, right? But his specifically focuses time energy. When he was in that cell and he had nothing but his own consciousness to think about, and he meditated and he saw equations and he realized that light and time are both energy forms, right? And as with light, there are many different parts of that spectrum, like infrared and others. Well, we can't see. We can only see the light of incandescent light, right? That's the only thing that our eyes see. So our eyes are very limited. But we invented apparatus to measure the other spectrums, right? And conversely, the time, we experience time in a linear sense. But in reality, time as an energy force exists just in that moment that you're here and now, right? And that the past and the future are that moment. It's just that within our construct of our avatar here, we can only experience it as a linear thing. And by putting yourself in the physical device, and they did it up near the North Pole where the permafrost was, and the permafrost, because it's frozen water of millions of years old, all of that time energy is stored there. So you put this mirror right there, and it's being energized by the evaporation of that permafrost. And now that things are really melting fast, we are being bombarded by all this different times, right? And all we have is our imaginary mirror, our conscious, and subconscious mind to vehicle to really understand it, except when we, through meditation and breath, travel to our superconscious mind, and that's just, there are, here we are, avatar. Our soul is that golden thread that goes up to our subconscious, which is the doorway, the imaginary mirror, into our Akashic record, where everything is, right? And that is a library of time, not just ours, but because we have been part of existence from, and in the beginning, because we are made in the image and likeness of the burning bush, we have been here forever and into the future. And so when we experience it just on this linear point of view, um, we are basically focusing on our ego, right? And we can't really represent any truth. You know, the ego is just lies, right? And it's experiencing the lack of love's co-creation, because that is when we experience love in total, past, present, future. So breathe in, breathe out. And when you're breathing out, you're expelling, you're evacuating all of that anxiety, all of that fear, all of that presence of not knowing, not being who you really are, your spirit self in love's co creation. Love. And love is God. God is love. Jesus is unconditional forgiveness. Now, these are terms. God and Jesus are terms because God has many names. Elohim, you know, you name it, there's many, 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 many names for God. Same with Jesus, right? And so, but their presence, their power are time and light energetics. And the power of God is not incandescent, it's photonic, right? And Jesus' unconditional forgiveness is torsion field. It's a scalar energy, right? And this is what Tesla was working on, right? And that's where it's, you know, the bias between um, you know, breath and chi, you can get unlimited power from. You can get unlimited healing, and you know, Wilhelm Reich called that orgone energy, right? And he made this thing called the orgone accumulator. Now that was very similar to this mirror, right? Your shamanic um, you know, mirror, you know, the mirror of your dreams, of your subconscious, right? And illuminated mirror, right? Right behind your eyelids, right? So when we're asleep and we're looking at a movie, we'll see that's our eyelids, it's the screen, right? And and when you are in dream time, that's why this show is called Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. You know, all of these shows, I have over 2,000 shows, and they're all shamanic in nature, meaning before I go into this, I go into a state and I prepare a shamanic window, a world view, right, of a timeless space, a thing that you can then go into your Akashic records and view everything about your life. So right now, if you just close your eyes and breathe in, that photonic light, and it goes into your lungs, and your lungs pass it into your heart pumps it as red corpuscles, you know, and your hemoglobin, and it is healing every cell of your body, bringing you into that connectivity with, that's what love's co-creation, that connectivity. See it clearly, right? Then you walk through the imaginary mirror of your dream space, and you're bang right in your Akashic record. There's this big fireplace that you could drive a train through, right? And there's a twin blue flame, right? Looks very similar to the DNA double helix, and um, and that is the essence of time, right? And that's, if you walk into that keep, you can go to any place and space and time. It's like a time keep, right? And in front of it is that comfortable little cubby where there's a nice couch and nice easy chairs and a coffee table, and guests can come and sit and have tea and crumpets. Behind it is your reading table, and to your left is your librarian. See your librarian clearly. To the left of your librarian is your animal totem. See your animal totem clearly, and your guardian angel. See your guardian angel to the left of your animal totem. Your librarian brings you the information in your Akashic record to you, and you can see it. and you may not understand it. And that's why you have your animal totem as your personal griot to your Akashic record. So you see something, go, what the heck is that? And your animal totem will tell you a story because it's a griot. And that story will give you the context so you can understand what you're seeing in your Akashic record. And a lot of things you see in your Akashic record may bring fear up, right? Because you're in this state of being a mud puppet, being a water bag avatar out of construct with your higher self, right? But your Akashic record is that vehicle that you can learn everything about it within a safe space because you got your guardian angel always watching your back. And so all my life, I've been through many, many, many trials and tribulations, and God has always been there, right? And I've been always protected by my guardian angel. And I'm always, when I get out of my own way, I'm in communications with the higher force, the source, right? And I do my best to, in every day, in every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger within the construct of love's co creation, right? And I know where my 20 is, right? And I'm obvious of my 360. My 20 is stepping right on where God wants me at that moment, living in that moment. Not the past, oh, boo hoo hoo hoo, or oh boy, I wish I could do that again, or in the future, one day I'll make $1 million. No, it's in the moment, serving God's love through Jesus' unconditional forgiveness. Now, it's tough. There are a lot of morons out there, and we have to, oh, if you pity them, that's being self-oriented. Oh, I'm better, right? If you can empathize with that person and go to them and say, how can I help you? That's what love's co-creation is all about. Now, usually they will spit on you and reject, right? Because they're full of fear, right? But you still do it, and you don't do it with like trying to be smug or patronize. Hard not to do that, really is. But you do your. You're not perfect, but you can do your best, right? When you do your best, that's when you understand what you're here for, right? That's when you can get enlightenment. That's when you can ascend, baby step by step. There's no like, woo, I'm perfect. Mm-mm. This is a work in progress, and that's why there's no end times soon because we all have to go home. So until everyone's ready, this this little dance is going to keep going on and on and on and on, right? And if you focus on the negative, the wars, the pestilence, the violence, the poverty, without just leading in a positive way, I only, after I pay all my mandated bills, I only have $400 to live on, right? And I, basically live like a millionaire on $400, right? There to help others, right? And that's what the other day I was out just doing errands and I bumped into about 10 different people, at this store, at that store, at this, cashier's line, out in the parking lot. And I made contact with 10 people who were not having the best of days. And I interceded in a kind, loving, unconditional way. And if I knew, 3 guardrails: doctor, do no harm. Do not get involved unless you go in with a conscious realization of a exit strategy and you're only going in to save the innocent. And third is do not get involved or go in unless you can learn something that can change and make a difference for the better in love's co-creation. And that's what all these shows are about, right? There are all kinds of stories because I'm a griot. I tell stories. And that story, basically, if we go back and just go to the front and just, all the way to the beginning. That's 4 years ago in May, right? 4 year thing is coming up soon, right? And like I said, I have over, I feel like 2,000, more than 1,500. God knows. I mean, I look at them and it looks like I got them all. I have no idea what YouTube says I have. I don't care, you know. Roughly each show, maybe 20 people watch, and maybe I get three thumbs up. But let's get some more because the more thumbs up, the more this algorithm will kick into other people, right? You folks who are, Jane, John, Fish, tell your friends to watch this. Have potluck dinners where you come together and watch the show. You don't have to watch the whole thing, watch a bit of it, and then talk about it. Right? It's like Bible studies. That's why I go to three different churches for Bible studies, not their services. I'd be a hypocrite if I went for their services. No, I go to study the Word, right? And I'm not, you know, in a front of nature. I listen to what everyone says. I get a great deal from what everyone says. And I've been doing it now for almost a year. And now everyone, because I've been there, patient, I'm quiet. Everyone's kind of, because it's Sunday, and everyone kind of goes to that first before the ceremony. And, I look like a hobo because I can't wash my clothes. How I wash my clothes? I put them on a tree when it rains. I kind of spray some detergent on them and let the rain wash it off. And then if I got like stains, like that, from eating and just life stains, I have a little brush that I kind of spray some more detergent on and brush it and put it in the rain. And then I like the sun, dry it out. Works pretty good. Not really like a washing machine. And I have a washing machine, but it breaks down all the time because all the parts are plastic, meant to be in a heated house, and it's outside. So one little bit of water inside some little valve or pipe or this or that cracks it, and then I have to figure out how to make it work. And it's a little silicon chip rather than a timing device, and so sometimes that freaks out, and I have to like figure out how to override certain parts of the circuit. And the same thing with my dryer. So I do have them, but they're outside under a tree with a tarp over them, right? And I've had them now. Somebody was they were already, not well, and someone was about to push them off a cliff down into a ravine because they didn't want to pay the $10 to have the dump take them. So I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I live right over here. Do they kind of work? Oh, yeah, they kind of work. They don't work very well. And I'm moving. I don't want to take the, I'll get some blah, 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 blah. So good. Instead of killing herself because this guy was about to go right off the cliff with the dryer, I said, no, come on, let's drive over. And he did. We drove over. We put him out there in the woods where I wanted them. And he said, well, thanks. That's a lot easier than what I was going to do. I said, that's right. And not against the law and not, and that's what these people do here. And not only people, but the corporations. Another place about 7 mountain ridges over there where there's a nuclear fuel entity that it has, because it has a get out of jail card from Manhattan Project in perpetuity. They have probably stored 500,000 gallons of very radioactive sludge, right? Because they have no other place to put it, so they just drive out in the woods, dig a big hole, and stick it in there. And I used to live near it, and I had this piece of property that was on top of the mountain, a beautiful, unbelievable, gorgeous site. But I never lived there. I took my bus up there. I built a little shed. I built a nice little place to hang. And I would go up there with my friend, and we would work on this and that in the process. I put in septic. I made the road so I could drive up without, having a tank. And I did that before I brought the bus up there. And I stuck that up there. And then I got to know everyone. And then I got to realize that everyone on that side where that stream was, where everyone was, putting they didn't even have septic tanks. They just had what they call it, bear piping it into the stream of their toilet. Not only was that going in there, all of this radioactive material was just all over the water table. So everyone had wells or were taking it out of springs, and they were super highly radioactive. And that's when so when I realized everyone was having cancer, and then when I saw this guy I knew with a super duper big truck just dropping these 55-gallon drums with the radioactive symbol on them, and he was spraying them black and then putting them in the ground. And he was wearing a hazmat suit. And I said, "What are you doing here?" Here, let me give you $1,000 to shut up. And I said, "No, no, I won't say anything," because he lived there. I said, "Doesn't your mother have cancer? Doesn't your brother have cancer? Don't your kids have cancer?" Well, what does that mean? I said, "Don't you think what you're doing here has something to do with that?" And she said, "Shut up." And so that's kind of when I left. Right? So, but I took some of that water and I took it to my friend who tests water. And I said, "Test this for radioactivity." He said, "Boy, this is nasty shit." And that's all over this place, right? Then he did. He said, "Where'd that come from?" I told him, and he did a little research on it, and he said, "This is really sick." I said, "Why?" It's because this is being put there on purpose, and the powers that shouldn't be are giving these people a get out of, they can with total authority do this, right? And that's, like the little explosion in Ohio um, in February, right? That still talks that place out, right? And the biggest ash um, pond that blew out in Kentucky and North Carolina and took out the Clinch River. That was the worst environmental catastrophe in America, right? Worse than the oil thing in the Gulf, right? So I mean, and we forget about these things, and that river goes down into the Potomac, right, into that large water source. And you don't think that really? I mean, all the cadmium and lead and mercury and radioactive material that comes from the ash of burning coal for a power plant. So this is what we're doing to our planet, and that mirror that Russian discovered. That's, if we listen to more of that, that's what they come out. In '91, when we went into Iraq, we went in there because the Germans and the French had discovered some really strange, Egyptian, Sumerian technology, ancient stuff before them. And one was a thing that the powers that shouldn't be called looking glass. It was just like this guy's um, mirror, but it was more sophisticated. You could ask it questions and it would show you. And it kept showing, the powers that shouldn't be, everything about the wars and the coming of wars and all of that. And so they would have the way to get over on it, that's why we did what we did in the Mid East with after 9/11. We used that as a springboard to just do what we did to the Mid East, the Arab Spring and Syria and Iraq and Libya and you name it, right? And we took advantage. The military-industrial complex made trillions of dollars, right? And you know, um, just go back and look at that time. And so, as the time clicked by from 2000 to 2012, when the Akashic record changed from you know the Piscean calendar to the Aquarian calendar. Piscean calendar is getting what you want through violence or force. Aquarian is getting what we need through charity and understanding and empathy. And that's where we are now. But the old guys, look at Biden. Guys like that are holding on with their fingernails, right? And he is way worse. There isn't a president, Eisenhower, who was, our fearless leader during World War II, knew all the secrets, right? So did Kennedy, right? And whenever anyone tried to stand up, like Forrestal, right? When FDR, right, when he finally got to his fourth thing, and he had a young firebrand who was from one of the mystery schools. I forget his name, but if you go to dark journalism, he has quite a nice expose on that. And right at the convention, FDR, this guy had been already FDR's vice president twice, and at the convention they switched to having Harry Truman as vice president because he was just a haberdasher. He was not an insider. He was a Mason, but he had certain political power in his state. But other than that, he was not an initiated one. And so, anyway, once this occurred, and you know, at the base of Hoover Dam, where the big generators were, um, those alternating commenters were creating a scalar field, right? A tension field, right? And it was like an artificial version of these mirrors, these windows, and they could see essence of the future and the past right there. And if people got too close, they had that's where they kind of realized about what was, that's what the Philadelphia experiment was, a contingent. They created a torsion field around that Eldridge destroyer, right? And so all of this has been going on for a long time. These understandings of this physics, the Greeks knew about it, right? The Sumerians definitely knew about this stuff. So did the Egyptians. The pyramids were energy devices, right? And all of this is, you go Google this and it'll pop up there. There's tons of YouTubes about it. And don't believe a word I say. You John Smith. Again, anybody wants to get a hold of me and talk to me more deeper about this stuff, get a hold of me at the Dudawake 42. Dudawake 42 at Gmail. Dudawake 42 at Gmail. And I just spent my last penny on fixing my car, and I still have another $3,000 to fix my car. Right? It's in the best shape it has been for at least 2 years, but it still needs a lot more to it. And that's my only way of getting around. And I get it to get me around by being very gentle on it, and also going into shamanic state every time I drive it. So if you could send something to my PayPal, it would be really, really good. Because I don't do this for making money. It was doing pretty good. I was getting at least 50 to $200 a month, pretty much. But then as of a couple of weeks before our last Thanksgiving, I haven't gotten a nickel. Still works. It's still there. Somebody send me $20 to make sure it works, and I'll tell you. So anyway, but if you want to talk to me, get a hold of me at the Dudawake 42 at Gmail. Dudawake 42 at Gmail. And if you live in America, give me your phone number. I'll give you a buzz. Right? Then we can talk. And at least 100 people have done that, right? And most of them were that desperate that they got a hold of me. And virtually all have, at some level, gotten over whatever was really bothering them, right? Talking to me being me, and telling them stories enabled them to get to a place, right? And I still talk to a good many of you, and I still seem to have a positive influence. So anybody who wants to talk to me about anything, you have questions, you can do it here at the chat. It's nice to see all you guys. You know. So anyone here have an interesting question to ask about any of this that I've just unfolded here, right? And you can go back once this goes up. You can go back and watch it over again, as most of you do. Most of you watch this later, right? And most of you have it running. A good deal of you tell me that you don't even watch anything else. You just have it running as wallpaper in the background, which is good because it's shamanic energy, So whether you listen to what I'm saying or not, it doesn't matter. It's energetically helping you out there. So, I'm going to die relatively soon. Comparatively, I'm in my 70s, so My mom lived to be 103. My grandma lived to be 100. But my other grandma, she kicked off at 57, and my mom's dad died at, I think in his late 40s, and my other grandfather, he died in his late 50s. Now, all those people were under a great deal of stress, right? And a great deal of anxiety. And I don't really have that. I have little bits, when I see things that really, what is going on here, and there is no reason why people do this stuff, and they harm themselves more, right? God has always got my back. So whatever happens, when, Colonel Sanders came in here. And now you may say, you know, why are you being patronizing calling him Colonel Sanders? Because he looks just like him, just a younger version, and he has slaves. And and he just is as whatever that entity of capitalism is, that fear-based. I don't have enough. I got to cheat, lie, and steal. Right? And actually, Colonel Sanders is a good guy on the inside, as so are we all. But we have to realize that it's the we and me, not just the me. Right? Yep. Stress and anxiety is the killer. Right? It is a motivator. That's why our society is run on stress and anxiety. It constantly, you listen to news, all they talk about is blah 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 blah, and whatever good feeling thing, it's not. You know, it's like some stupid thing that really doesn't mean anything. And if you deconstruct it, it's like everything that Newspeak, right? So a good example of Newspeak is No Child Left Behind, which meant every child left behind. Um, it just keeps going deeper and deeper into that context. So unless you are consciously aware, I am consciously aware, I am, you know, you're having a hard time. And consciously intent, you have to live, you know, at least now I'm about 70. I was, when I died 8 years ago, I was at about 79%, um, well, 60% conscious intent I am, right? 79% of accomplishing what I was put here to do. I still had 11% to do. Now I'm about oh, 86% consciously aware, right? So I have a good, what is that, 14%, just, but I consciously intend everything I do except when I don't. But I have an awakening all the time. When I kind of get a grip on it relatively quickly, right? And I deconstruct my attitude. I deconstruct my feelings. Why am I feeling this? What am I doing? You know, and then I realize, things aren't that bad because this is live. And 90% of the time, it's quiet, just like it is now. I hear them leave. They leave ridiculously early in the morning, like around 6:30. Then they come back around now or between now and 7. Most of the time, they're not here. So anyway, that is my show for today. And unless, because we have about 15 minutes of juice left, and as I keep saying, I often talked and talked and talked, and then the screen just goes blank, meaning the battery died, right? And so then it confuses the poor little YouTube, and it takes twice, 3 times, 4 times longer for it to get put up. So unless you got something to ask or comment, I'm going to leave because then I can leave in a nice orderly way, and my laptop will be happy, and the connection with the YouTube will start going up right now, and plus it's a certain time of day where I need to go do some puttering around the deep green. It's not too hot. It's like Goldilocks time. right? Because in about 2 hours it'll start to get cold, and another 3 hours it'll get dark. So about 5 hours it'll get dark. So anyway, I enjoyed this show for you, right? And I hope you got something out of it. Again, get a hold of me at the dudewake42 at gmail, dudewake42 at gmail, dudewake42 at gmail. Please put something into your PayPal, and it's the Dude Awake. When they ask you, it's dudewake42 at gmail. Okay? Want to talk to me? Dudewake42 at gmail. Right? And leave a message. If you got a phone that's in America that can easily call, I'll call. If you're in foreign lands, if you are WhatsApp or what's the other one I use? It's another one I use. Um, let's see. Love what you do. Appreciate it. Thank you. Dude Awake 42. Yep. At Gmail. Right? Exactly. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. The Dude. Not Dude. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. I think that's what it is. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Let's see. Get these things out of the way. Yep, the Dude Awake. Yep, all in one thing. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Right? The Dude Awake. Yep, that's it. You got it. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Okay. So send me an email. I'd love to hear from y'all, and we can go on. So, if I'm around, which I should be tomorrow, near a Wi-Fi, I will have another little discourse with you. Okay. Love you guys. You stay well. Let's see. And end stream. We hit that, and we go. Do you really want to? Yes.